Hello! Read it here. Today we're going to read a story from our /Entitle Parents. Now, for our first story, entitled Aunt Brought Extra Guests to My Wedding? Not sure what to do. I, 22F, just got married on Friday. It was a gorgeous day, and everything went perfectly except for my aunt. For context, we rarely get together as a family. They only get invited to larger milestones such as weddings. Her one son, 25M, cycles through girlfriends, and my rule for the wedding was they had to be dating longer than a year in order to be invited as a +1. This is the same stipulation my sister had at her wedding a year prior, and the same aunt caused issues about this, so I should have seen this coming. Anyways, 2 weeks before the wedding, we saw each other at a family baptism and found out my cousin had a new girlfriend. Shocker. She did seem super sweet. I have nothing against her. So I spoke with my aunt and told her final number we're in for the venue for food, but since she lives in the same town as the reception, she could come at 9 once all the formalities were finished. She seemed pleased with this and said she would pass along the message. Didn't think anything of it until the wedding day. Cousin's new GF was at the church. I thought, okay, that's not a big deal, whatever. But after the church, we were doing extended family photos. She was there, with my cousin inviting her not any pickies in. At that point, I was pissed, but it was cold and I wanted to be done with pics, so I let it slide. Once photos finished and we're waiting for dinner, cousin's GF is still there. So I go to talk to my mom and ask what is up, like did she know anything? And she's like, Aunt talked to me today, saying that cousin's GF is coming and we'll all just scoop food off our plate for her. Didn't talk to me at all. And it's not even about the food, but like physical place settings. I had individualized cards for everyone and everything neatly laid out, and she just pulled up a chair to cousin's table. All my siblings who spoke to her all said she's so sweet and likely did not know she wasn't even invited, and more likely my entitled aunt said she could come and that it was fine. My mom told me it's okay and to not get worked up about it since my grandparents who came from overseas were here for the wedding too. I didn't say anything to them, and they never spoke to me the entire evening. Now I am wondering if I should message my aunt and say how incredibly disrespectful her behavior is, or if I should just let it go. Most of my family is telling me to get over it and saying, oh, that's just who she is, but she shouldn't be able to get away with that. So what should I do? If I should message her, what should I even say? Let's hear from the comment section. Comment 1. You have 2 choices. You have to make a decision about what will be effective and about what you want to get out of it. Don't mention it, but never invite aunt to anything. The thing is, though, unless you are planning to have children and plan to start trying right away, this isn't going to be very effective. It helps you, but if you aren't the next person to host a family event, it won't help anyone else. But if in 6 months you are having a baby shower and you purposefully do not invite your aunt, and when she inquires you say, because I cannot trust you not to invite your own guests like you did to my wedding, you make your point with a 2x4. You say something in text so you can share with any flying monkeys she tells a sanitized version to. Aunt, I am very upset with you. You asked if cousin could bring his short-term girlfriend, and we told you not to the dinner. Not only had we already given the caterers the numbers and had the place cards all set up, but because it was going to be disrespectful to everyone who didn't get to bring a +1 because they had not been in a relationship long enough. We were willing to allow you to have girlfriend come after dinner for the dancing, but apparently that wasn't good enough for you. I'm not sure who taught you that you don't have to follow the same rules as everyone else, but now that I know that this is your attitude, I will protect my future events by not inviting you at all. Then you text your cousin and play passive-aggressive. Hey cousin, just a heads up, we have a policy for our wedding guests that we would only invite couples who have been together for over a year. 2 weeks before the wedding, your mother asked us if we could add your girlfriend. We told her that the numbers were already into the caterers, and we couldn't add anyone. We very generously offered that it would be okay if your girlfriend came after dinner for the dancing. I don't know what your mother told you, but your girlfriend showing up for the meal was a huge inconvenience. I thought you might want to know that your mother did that, so that in the future you could check with the host directly, since you now know she'll lie about it. I can't imagine how horrible it would have been for your girlfriend, and how badly it would have reflected on you if we had had to throw her out. I mean, for all your mother knew, we could have been at the limitations of the venue. Comment 2. Personally, I would bill her for the meal and drinks unless her gift was very generous. I would write, Dear Entitled Aunt, My Vimo is blah blah. Please send me X to cover your uninvited guest. If you would like the pic she is in, that will be an additional X for an unframed 5x7. As we discussed, I generously offered to host her after 9 p.m., but you invited her to MY's ceremony, infringed on our photos, and invited her to dinner, causing issues with my place. Setting in, adding another caused us to be invoiced for her, which you were responsible for. It's not just the money, it's the disrespect that I find difficult to get my head around. I am not pleased with your behavior. I expect payment within the week and an apology sooner. Comment 3. So, full disclosure, I can be pretty petty and passive-aggressive in situations like this when addressing it directly will not change anything. So, what I would do is turn it into a family joke, but you have to say it nicely, like you think it's funny and don't realize how entitled her behavior was. X, someone is planning a get-together, so you say, don't forget to add extra places for and or plan to have extra food in case Aunt brings any unexpected guests like she did at my wedding. Or, I really liked whatever food you had at your wedding. It was so tasty. I felt sorry for anyone who didn't get to eat all of their food. You know, since Aunt brought GF without asking us or even letting us know. She even had to drag a chair to the table and squeeze in. I like GF. She is so sweet, or other nice adjective. I can hardly believe Aunt put GF in that position, but you know how Aunt can be. Then you laugh like it's funny. Don't do it constantly, only when it can fit into the conversation. Also, as an invited guest, I would be side-eyeing anyone who asked people to share their food with an uninvited guest. Comment 4. I do not understand why people keep inviting these entitled multiple offenses committed pieces of poo to really important events. I think I'm just really petty and over it the older I get, because I have no problem not keeping the peace and hiring security. But for real, the best thing I have learned to live in my life is that the people asking me to keep the peace are not looking out for my best interest and trying to bully me into being the pushover, because they are too big of wusses to stand up to the actual problem. Now, for our second story. My 24 mom 54 still hits me. I live by myself and have a job. I went out to dinner with my mom tonight. Even though I don't see her often, I'm in the process of growing a beard. When she saw my face as I arrived at her house to pick her up, she reacted negatively, questioning why I would show up with facial hair, knowing that she hates it. I had been shaving my head bald until I left for college, and I always shave when I came home for the holidays. This time, I stood my ground on my decision to keep my facial hair. She started throwing things at me and yelling about how I was disrespecting her and breaking my promise never to grow hair on my body, as she believes it is only for losers and the uneducated. I ended up going back to my place and just finished dealing with a visit from the cops who came to interview me. My mom has been calling me non-stop, threatening that I'll be fired from my job because of my beard and saying that she will call my company to complain. Despite everything, I still feel like I failed as a son tonight because I wasn't clean-shaven and had facial hair. Let's hear from the comment section. Comment 1. You did nothing wrong. Your mom is insane and abusive. Please limit contact with her for your own safety and sanity. Comment 2. That is not love. That is selfish control. You are an adult. Her behavior is at best narcissistically immature and at worst demented. Sorry, there's no love in that behavior. Comment 3. Would you hit /scream at /demean someone you love? Would you threaten someone you love? Would you call someone you love a loser? No, you wouldn't. She doesn't love you. She is abusing you. She's probably abused you your whole life and excused her actions by saying something like, if I didn't care, I wouldn't be so angry. She is trash. Comment 4. Your success or failure as a son is not dependent on your hair situation anywhere on your body. Maybe your mother needs to evaluate herself on how she's failing as a mother. You sound like a nice son. Just based on this one instance I'm reading as an example of her behavior, I can tell that you are far more forgiving than most would be. You're an independent adult. While you may wish to maintain and parent and child relationship, you are still now an adult and can set firm boundaries with her. And your mental health will improve. She will likely guilt you, blame you for everything, tell you how shameful and ungrateful you are. But trust yourself that you aren't any of those things and set some firm boundaries for your own sanity. Likely you'll be glad the boundaries are there when you begin to grow your own family, because she would be a nightmare to deal with for your future spouse and children, assuming you have them. I'm really glad you got the police involved. Set a hard line. Now, for our third story. Non-parents shouldn't be allowed to have time off during school holidays. Today found an article about how all the children-free monsters are booking holidays during the summer. Excerpt below. My husband's small team is full of child-free colleagues who often book the school holidays off, despite not even having kids. I don't think it's that big a deal for companies to say that only parents should get priority to book off half-term or the 6-week summer holiday. First, if you have kids, you need to be organized and book time off early. How does it go? Your lack of planning does not constitute an emergency on my part. Also, if I want to go to a summer festival or spend a week with my nephews, that's up to me. Yes, having kids can make work-life balance more difficult, but that is a choice people make when they have kids. When did it become normal for parents to demand everyone else adjust their lives because of a choice they made? Let's hear from the comment section. Comment 1. Just because they don't have kids doesn't mean that they don't have family who they want to spend holiday with, partner, their parents, siblings, friends, and so on. And everyone has the equal right to get days off work on holiday. It just depends if you do it on time or if you already spent your off days. So why blame people who request days off on time? Comment 2. My partner had that discussion once at work. Does he really need time off during the holidays when his daughter is 20 plus and working? Hell yes, he does, because the person he tends to travel with, is a teacher and therefore restricted to school holidays, even without having a kid. It did lead to some moments among former colleagues. Comment 3. I pulled this on my old boss. I saw a leave request from a guy saying he hadn't spent time with his kids in 4 weeks due to workload. I did the same, don't have kids or rel lies around. Boss asked me how my time off was, what I did with my family. Told him what family, I am my own, don't need people. Boss said, don't do that again. Fuck you, boss. Comment 4. Shit. I'm a single mom and asked my boss if it was okay to come in at 11 a.m. just to watch my kids open their presents and have breakfast. She said absolutely, and then scheduled me at 9 a.m. because she switched and refused to come in at all. My manager was salary, but frequently under 40 hours, and while I was on overtime, she doesn't have any kids and knew mine well. The store was not going to be busy at 9 a.m. She then proceeded to tell me, stop using your kids as an excuse. I was the only person in that place with young kids. The rest who had them had late teenagers or full-ass adult kids. My reply? Merry Christmas. Go fuck yourself. I quit. I was absolutely okay with working as I wanted holiday pay. However, I still got fucked. Funny enough, I started a new job on Christmas at 11 a.m. P.S. What were my excuses? I have an autistic kid who was being sent home from school, and his father didn't care. I literally brought him to work with me sometimes just so they weren't understaffed. Now, for our fourth story. My sister thinks it's okay to bring her kids to my house unannounced and let them trash the place. I love my sister and her kids, but lately, she's been showing up at my house without warning, expecting me to entertain her 2 young kids, ages 5 and 7. At first, I didn't mind too much. Family time is important, right? But it's gotten out of hand. Just last week, she dropped by with the kids while I was in the middle of working from home. She didn't even knock. She just walked in. I tried to explain that I needed to focus on my work, but she shrugged it off and said, they'll be fine. Just let them play. By the time they left, my living room looked like a tornado hit it. There were toys everywhere, snacks spilled on the floor, and a crayon masterpiece on my walls that I'm still trying to scrub off. I told her I wasn't comfortable with them coming over without giving me a heads up and asked if she could at least call first in the future. She got defensive, saying I was being too uptight and that kids are just being kids. Now I'm feeling guilty for wanting to set boundaries. How do you handle a situation like this without coming off as the bad guy? Edit. Thanks for the insight, guys. I'll take note of your advices. It's sad to see that a lot of people have also experienced similar situation to mine. Let's hear from the comment section. Comment 1. Hey, your kids trash my place. When will you be over to clean it up? Then when she tries to say she isn't, point out that not taking responsibility for parenting choices is what bad parents do, and ask if she wants her kids to grow up to become fentanyl addicts. Comment 2. Is she dropping them off and leaving or staying and not supervising them? Start locking your door 24/7 so she can't walk in whenever she wants. Does she have a key? Change the locks. Comment 3. Lock the door. She has keys. Change the locks and get a doorbell camera so you know who is at the door. Then when she shows up to dump the kids and you are working, tell her from the doorbell camera that you are working and can't watch her kids. If she pushes, remember NO is a complete sentence. When she guilt trips you, come back with I didn't give birth to them. You did, so don't push your responsibilities on me, especially without at the very least of being decent and calling ahead to ask. And if you ask, you should be okay with NO as an answer. And make her pay to have the crayon on the walls repainted if you can't get it off. Comment 4. Yeah, Op needs to take a break from babysitting for the sister until she can learn to treat Op with at least a basic level of respect. Op's sister threw a huge fit when it's perfectly reasonable and understandable for Op to tell the sister to call them first before coming over instead of just showing up with no warning. Especially since the sister isn't coming to hang out, but to drop her kids off on Op like, yeah, of course you should call, and ask Op first. She really said Op was being uptight, and kids will be kids. WDF that have anything to do with it, and how is that being uptight? Sis doesn't want to be made to have to call and ask in advance, cause then she can't just take off with her friends in the spur of the moment and drop them off on Op. She'll have to plan it out more and work with Op's schedule, and yeah, that just doesn't work for her. No, it's much easier to just dump them on Op whenever it's convenient for her. /S. Op, show her your shiny spine and enforce your rules and boundaries. She needs to ask to babysit with a couple days notice before the actual day, and if you say no, she drops it. She can always hire an actual sitter. And if she just shows up again, don't answer the door or anything. She won't take you seriously until you prove you are serious, and she can't walk all over you anymore. Call her out on things like when she's trying to manipulate and gaslight, you then call it out like, hey, are you done with your guilt trip now? She may try to emotionally manipulate Op by using their kids, like, oh, I guess you don't love your niece and nephew. Or God forbid, say something like that in front of the kids, or make them say things to guilt Op to pressure, and force them to say yes and go back to how it was. Call her on it whenever she tries using any of these manipulative tactics to get her way. Op isn't even saying they won't babysit just to call ahead to set it up like that's it, so WTF is sister's problem? Does she like having this control and power over Op? Why can't she just be considerate and do this one little thing for Op? I wonder if there's more to this story. Like that one where Op kept getting stuck with her sister's baby. So one day when she was hours late, they called their husband, who didn't know Op and babysitting, and turns out their sister was dumping the baby on Op to go have an affair. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see more.